Okay. Now, setting up your development environment, the first thing you need to do is to create a folder on your PC. On your computer, you create a folder. That's the first thing. Now, the idea is that whatever code you write, anything you do will live inside that folder, just like I have here. Now, these are files that I've worked on, and I have them saved on my system. So the first thing to do is to create a folder. When you create a folder, the next thing is how to open up this folder with VS Code. Now, VS Code is the text editor we're using to build our project, and it is very good. It gives us auto suggestions. So the idea is to open up this with VS Code. So if you are using Windows, the first thing you can do is open up your VS Code like this, and then click on Open Folder. So if you click on Open Folder, you can choose the folder you created and where you created the folder. So that way you can create a folder, or maybe you open your project. So that's the most important thing to do first. The first thing to do is create a folder. The reason why you are creating a folder is that all the files you create will live in that folder. So when you close VS Code, you still have your project. But if you don't do it that way, you end up writing all your codes. By the time you close VS Code, you will not have those files again. So it's important to create a folder. When you create a folder, another thing is just click on VS Code, open it, and it will ask you to open folder. You click Open Folder here. And when you click on it, then you select the folder you created. And I think I have a desktop. Okay, this is all the project, but I don't want to open it this way. Now, another way would be to just drag the folder you created and drop it on VS Code. Drag the folder, drop it on VS Code. Now, this is how you set up development environment with VS Code, the first one. The next thing you want to do is create your files. Here, this is the first one to create files. It says new files. Here, this is the second one to create a folder, and it says new folder. For now that we are writing JavaScript, it's okay. It's okay. The good thing is we are recording the class, so you can always pick up the video later. I'm sorry about the last one. I haven't sent that, but I will send that when we're done editing. So like I said, when you open up that folder, you should see the name of the folder here. You should see something like this, the name of the folder here. So you click here to create a file. Whatever you choose to name this file is irrelevant, but it must end with .html like this. It must end with .html. That is the only way the browser knows that what you are writing inside are HTML codes. .html. So when you create your HTML, then you can bootstrap HTML. Now, you don't need to write everything from scratch. Because we are using VS Code, VS Code gives us access to Emmet. So an Emmet is the auto suggestion we have. When you type something, you get suggestions like this. So this is Emmet in action, giving us suggestions. So you don't need to type everything. To bootstrap your project, you type exclamation mark. So it will bring out the whole document like this. So you tap exclamation mark and hit tab. Now you have your HTML populated for you. This is the head and this is the body. If you go through the video on Google Classroom, you understand the different parts of HTML and what they are doing. So the head contains instruction for the browser, and while the body contains all your HTML codes like that. So, but we don't want to go further into that. The next thing you want to do is create a JavaScript file, index.html, not HTML this time, but JavaScript. So index.js. The reason why it's ending with JS because the browser will know that this file here contains our JavaScript code. So that is why the name must end with .js. So you hit enter. Now, if you want to create CSS, you still do the same thing. You don't have to name it index. I'm only naming index because I like using index. Now you can name your files anything, but name it in a way that if somebody sees them, they know what they are and what they represent. So here I have index.css for CSS codes, index.html for HTML code, index.js for JavaScript codes. Now, I'm not using the CSS, or maybe I will not use it for now. I want to use the HTML and the JavaScript. To use the HTML and the JavaScript, the browser will only, when you build these codes, whether website, whether mobile app, dashboard, whatever you build, the browser is looking for only one file, and the file is looking for will have the name index.html. So that is why I name my files index, to tell the browser which one is the first file. So the browser is only looking for this index.html file. It's not interested in any other file. So the index.html file is the file that the browser is looking for. Now, if you want the browser to read this JavaScript, you need to link your JavaScript in the HTML file. If you need the browser to read CSS, you also need to link CSS file in the index file. So whatever file you create and you want the browser to also read those codes, you link them inside here. Now, to link CSS, there's a way we link CSS. We'll type in link for short, and then here you see style sheet, knowing that this tells you want to link a style sheet, that is CSS. And then in the href for the location, you say I want to link index.css like this. Now the next thing is JavaScript. To link JavaScript, there are two ways to link JavaScript. The easiest way is to link it as the last thing in the body. Now, the reason why you are linking it as the last thing in the body is because you want your JavaScript to be the last thing that the browser would read. There's a reason for that. The reason being, JavaScript is your functionality. JavaScript is the robot, the action, the life, and all of that. So the browser needs to see the little bricks, which are HTML tags, before knowing what to do with them. So you link it here as the last thing, / and then JavaScript. So what this means is that when the browser starts reading your HTML file from top to bottom, when it enters the head and reach line 7 here, it will stop, then move over to this index.css, read all the styles there, then come back and continue with your HTML code that will be here. Like this. So it will then continue reading your HTML codes that will be here. So when it finishes reading all your HTML codes, the last thing it will see is the JavaScript. So it will move over to the JavaScript file. Because it has seen your HTML codes, it has also seen your styles. It will begin to use your HTML code and your CSS to apply functionalities to the website. Now, if the browser sees your JavaScript first and begin to read your JavaScript first, your website will crash. And that is why you will see the website looking blank, pure white, no HTML, because the website, the browser is trying to implement functionalities without seeing the HTML tags. So now the next thing is, if you don't want to link your JavaScript here, you can also link it here at the head if you want, like script./index.js. But you can only do this based on one condition. And the condition is that you add a keyword differ. Now, this keyword differ means that when the browser starts reading your code from top to bottom and gets to line 8 here, because of this differ keyword, you are saying move over to other things. When you are done doing other things, then you come back to my JavaScript. This also means that your JavaScript will still be the last thing that the browser will read, which is the goal. So the goal is to make sure that your JavaScript is the last file that the browser will see. But to be on a safer side, you link it as the last thing in the body, not outside the body, but within the body, but the last thing as the body. So while you are here, you don't need this keyword differ like this. So I have created HTML, I've bootstrapped the HTML, I've linked the CSS, I've also linked JavaScript. The next thing you want to do is to open up this HTML with your browser. So how do you do that? The easiest way is to go back to the folder you created, which is this. This is the one I created. And then you will see the HTML I created here. Then open it up with any browser you want. Now I'm using Microsoft Edge, so you can use Google Chrome, you can use any browser you want. So I'm opening up with Microsoft Edge. If you have any question? Okay, so here I have my HTML. Now you know that this is my HTML because you are seeing index.html here. And apart from that, if you also look here, you see that the title of this document is actually document. So the title is document, and you are seeing that document here. Now to confirm, I can change this to JavaScript and save it. If I refresh my browser, you see that the title has changed to JavaScript. And also you are seeing this title here with Lorem Ipsum, and that is what you are seeing here. So the final thing to do is to open up here, right click anywhere in this white space, right click anywhere, and then open inspect. If you open inspect, you are going for console. You're looking for console. There are so many things you see here, but you are only interested in console for now. So you click on console, and you can test this out by typing console log in your JavaScript and save. If I refresh this browser, I'll see console log first. Now you know this is coming from my JavaScript because if you look at it, this is first coming from index.js line 3. So this is my index.js and this is line 3. So before we continue, do we have any question so far? Do we have any question on what I have done so far, especially for the new students? Do you have any question so far? Any question? Okay, no questions. Now, when you are done setting them, go ahead, type your question. Go ahead. I will attend to it. So when you are done setting up your development environment, there are things that you should know how to do before you start learning backend. Now, the first thing you need to know how to do is to declare a variable. So you must know how to declare a variable. Sorry, I'm typing capital and small letter. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing you need to know how to do is how to declare arrays and objects. Arrays and objects. Know how to define arrays and objects before you start learning backend. So after defining arrays and objects, now you should also know array methods. Let's say here, higher array methods. Now the most important ones are map, for each, and filter. Now there's reduce, and there's sort, but you can always pick those ones up anytime. You can always pick them up anytime. So after these ones, the next thing you want to understand is how to write arrow functions. How to write arrow function. It's not compulsory that you must use arrow functions, but I prefer using arrow functions. And because I'm the one teaching you, you will see a lot of arrow functions. But it's important you know how to write functions. So you use functions, but for my class, I prefer arrow functions. So you know how to write arrow functions. Now, if you have any question, I'm still waiting for your questions. Drop your questions before we continue. Okay, that's the first thing. Arrow function. Know how to write if or else statement. Now, the short if or else statement is ternary operators, and I don't think I covered that, but I will. Ternary operators. And what else? 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 Variables, arrays, array methods, functions, if or else statements. What else did I talk about? There's a lot in JavaScript that you should know, but to learn backend, these ones are very, very important. Very, very. I want to find out another one. If or else statement, ternary operators. I may not be able to remember all, but I'll stop here. What are arrow functions? Okay, I don't get your questions. When you try to open yours, it was opening on the HTML page. Yes, whatever you write in HTML file here, whatever you write inside this body will reflect here on this white space. But whatever you write inside your JavaScript using console log will reflect in the console part of the browser, like that. Okay. Arrow functions. What are arrow functions? Now, in JavaScript, we have functions like this. This is function, and we call it maybe EE here. No. The name of the, let me just say name of function. Name of function, then put your brackets and your curly braces. This is not function. Okay. So this is a function. A function in JavaScript is like a robot. If you need something to happen without you doing it yourself, then you write a function for it. Now, it is the function that will handle it. You will not be the one to handle it. So whatever you want to happen in your code, you wrap it with function. So the function will run whatever it is you put inside it. That's what the function is. So you can create a function like we did, a function to fetch persons, a function to fetch persons with ID, a function to fetch posts. You can also write a function to save details. You can write a function to validate people's emails, a function to validate people's NINs. You can write a function to cross-check people's scores, to check whether they passed or they failed. So you can use functions for anything. And this is how you write a function in JavaScript. But with ES6, you can rewrite this function this way. Const name of function with an extra n, set it to be equal to. Now, an arrow function is simply brackets, fat arrow, and curly braces. So this is what we refer to as arrow functions. So whenever you see brackets, fat arrow, and curly braces together, then this is an arrow function. Now, whatever these functions will return will be stored here in the variable. So we are creating a variable and we are setting the value of that variable to be an arrow function, just like this. So any of this is a function, this is also a function. So this is what we refer to as an arrow function. Apart from arrow functions, what else can be used to replace it? I don't know what else can be used to replace an arrow function, but what else do you want to use to replace arrow functions? You use a function. Functions are very, very important, and I don't think there is any software you will build without writing more than one functions. So I don't think there's anything you can use to replace it. Yes, you should know Boolean expressions. That's in variables, but you should also know string concatenation, not just string concatenations, but concatenations in general. So you can concatenate strings, you can concatenate numbers, you can concatenate arrays too. So that's concatenations. Can you use arrow functions in HTML? Now, in your HTML here, you have the liberty of writing JavaScript here. So you can write your JavaScript here inside this tag called script. So here you can declare arrow functions too, because YY is equal to bracket, fat arrow, curly braces. So inside your HTML, provided you are using this tag script, you can write any JavaScript here. So whether it's arrow functions or normal functions, provided you are using this tag script. But you will not be doing this. The people who do this are front-end developers. You are a back-end developer, so you will not be doing this. And that is why I didn't bother about it, because you will not be doing it at all. So next, with arrow functions, must we use return keywords before it works? Now, it depends on how you write your arrow functions. This arrow here is doing two things. It is the function and it's also returning like that. So sometimes arrow functions can be written in one line. That is when it's doing just shortening. For example, say here, const add equal to A plus B, and set it to be fat arrow and return whatever it is. However, how do I want to write this now? I'll take this, take A and say A plus 1. So this is me writing an arrow function in one line without the return keyword. So if I come here and say console log add, and I pass in 3, of course this here means I'm accepting a variable. So that variable, we are taking that variable and we are adding 1 to it. So whenever I call the name of this function, I must pass in one variable, which is exactly what I've done here. So I'll save this and save this and refresh, and I have 4. So without writing the keyword return, this arrow also does return. So, but the return keyword doesn't only return a value, it also specifies the last line of that function. So the return keyword tells you the last thing that we run. For example, in this function, as I can say const y is equal to 4, const b is equal to 7, and why am I not writing const very well? Const, and I can say const c is equal to y plus b, and then come here and say return c. Now if I come down here again and say const v is equal to 4, you see that this thing is looking fainted, and if you put your cursor on it, you will see unreachable code detected. So the return keyword doesn't only return the value of C, but it also tells you the last thing that we run. And it is very, very important as a backend developer, and you will see it. So as a backend developer, this return keyword will save your project a lot, and you need it. So it doesn't just return the value, it also tells you the last line that we run. Okay, which arrow function must we use return keyword? Okay, what about case and switch statements? Yes. Now, case and switch statement, I didn't cover it, but of course you can always look it up. It's needed, it's very, very important. It's very, very, very important. Depending on the project you're building, you do it, and it's very simple. Switch statement is very, very simple, and you can always do it. So can we break down the questions, because I'm not following again? Can't we wait for him to explain? No. Ask your questions. Ask your questions now. Based on that, I will then know where to start my class. And the first thing I have done, the only thing I have done, is to show you how to set up your development environment as a newbie. Now, but for the old student, this is your the first hour of this class is like your last class as a beginner. And so these things are pointed out. There are things you must know how to do on your own before we proceed. So it is now that I need to know that you know how to do these things before we proceed. Now, but for the newbies, I understand you offline, so and I will try to carry you along. Now, if you don't understand what a function is, it's no problem. I get you, but you need to study that video very well, especially the JavaScript. You need to, at this point, whether you follow along in next week class depends largely on you and how you do it. So anything you are doing and you don't understand, please drop a question in the new student topic. Anything you want to do, you don't understand, drop a question there. If I don't attend to it, somebody will attend to it. And that is the only way you can follow along in next week class. or maybe second hour of today's class. So but please ask your questions now so that I understand where to go in while I start teaching. When you are writing a function in the back end, it is not compulsory that you must return something, but it is compulsory that you indicate which line is the last line, or which line should be the last line. For example, let's say somebody wants to log in to your software. That functionality depends on you, the backend, the login. So all of these softwares that do login, that is one job. That is the first job of your backend developer, how to build authentication system to login users. Now, say the users supply their email or provide their email and password. There are a few things you want to do. The first thing you want to do is you are demanding that they must enter email. So if they do not enter email, that function should not run. So that should be the last line. The first line should end there. If there is no email, return. That is where you use return keyword. If there is no email. So, but if there is an email, it will pass that line and proceed to the next line. So the next line, what you want to do is to use that email and find whether the user already has an account with the software. So if the user does not have an account with that software, you want to return at that point. You don't want to proceed. You want to return there. So, but if the user has an account with the software, then the function will proceed. So the next thing you want to do is the user's account that you have found. You want to check whether the password that is saved on the database is matching the password that is supplied to you when they are trying to log in. If the two passwords do not match, you want to return. You don't want to continue the function there. You just want to return it. So, but if the two functions match, then you want to proceed. What you want to do, you send a response back to the front end and tell the front end to grant this user access. And so that is the only time the user will log in to the software. So you see how many times you are using the return keyword. It is very, very important, especially in the backend. But it's not for every function. Not for every function. But some functions, you can use up to 3, 4, 5, 6 return keywords. It's very, very important. The last class is recorded, and the link will be sent to you, if not today, tomorrow. Today's class, I am also recording it, and after today, you also get the link too. So you will get the link. But for the new students, yes, this class is important. You should do it and understand it. But the most important one is the one on the Google Classroom and the previous recordings that we have. So if you don't have those previous recordings and you can't find it, drop a question on the new student topic so that we'll find a way to get you those previous recordings. It's important that you are able to follow along. Okay, so here in this function, I have a function here. What this function is doing is assigning y the value of 4, assigning b the value of 7, and then saying that the value of c will become whatever is the sum of y and b. So that is y plus b. The value is now the new value of c. And then here it is returning the value of c. But here we are still writing something else. Now we are also saying let the function assign 4 to be the value of y. But if you look at it, these colors are not the same. This line is fainted. And the reason is because we are using the return keyword here, specifying that this should return the value of c and also should be the last line. So that is why this is fainted. So if you hover over it, you will see that it says unreachable code detected. Unreachable means when it starts running from top and it gets to here, it will stop and it will return. It will not reach here. So it will reach here and stop and it will return. So it will not reach here. That is why it says this is an unreachable code, because here we are using the return keyword. We're saying return. Can I make an example? Example of what? I want to know. Kenneth, example of what? A promise. Exactly. What I explained with login actually means a promise. So when the user supplies their email and password, you, the backend, you are going to be returning a promise to them depending on what you have done as your logic. That is when you choose what type of promise to return. So here we are putting the return keyword is inside this function. So it means that this is the last line for this function, not the whole software, but for this function. In a software, you can write more than one functions. So you're going to have different return keywords in different functions. So anywhere you have a function, that is the last line. No, I'm sorry. Anywhere you have return keyword, that is the last line for that function. Okay. Thank you, Kenneth. So is there any more questions? If there is no more questions, drop a thumbs up so that we continue with today's class. And if you already, no, don't go. I would have said you should leave, but don't go anywhere. I have one or two things to explain to you as a backend developer before I continue with the new students. So if there's no more question, please drop a thumbs up in the question and answer group so that I can continue with today's class. Okay. Thank you. So back to what we have for today. Now, I want to explain where we stopped in the exactly here. I stop here. Asynchronous requests. Yeah, you're going to, of course, we made one request in the last class yesterday. So these are a few things you should know how to do and do them very well, because this is the beginning of the backend. So back to what we have for today. We are able to make a request to fetch data from another backend. Now, we didn't build that backend, but we are going to build our own backend that will also be sending data whenever developers make requests to it. So what do we want to do? Now, for the newbies, I will start with you and then proceed back to HTML. I've explained to you how you set up your HTML, how you can link your CSS file, and also how you can link your JavaScript. HTML is the building block for website, not for any software, for website. And the reason why I am using HTML is because it is easier to show you website than it is to show you a mobile app. Otherwise, I would have opened a mobile app and would be doing this with a mobile app. But whatever we do with a website is the same thing that will be done with a mobile app. So for HTML, HTML is the building block for any website. Any website at all, you must write HTML. Any website at all. Now, when you want to build a website is still like building a house. The first thing you want to do when you want to build a house is to get a location, the name of the place you want to build your house. I want to build a house in Lagos. I want to build a house in Abuja. I want to build a house in Uyo, in Sokoto, in Kano. So it depends on the location where you want to build your house. Now, building a house is like building a website. A location in website, we call it the domain. The domain or the URL. So that is like your location. It can be www.mywebsite.com. That is your domain. The next thing you want to get is a land. Of course, real estate people, they are selling lands to us now. That is the same way people sell server and hosting to us that build softwares. So after you get a domain, you want to get hosting. You want to get a hosting. So the hosting here is referred to like your land, hosting or your server. Hosting, yeah, that's the spelling of server. Is it not? No, it is not. It's a server. So you get your domain, you get your hosting. Hosting is the land. The next thing you want to do is start laying bricks. You want to start laying bricks, and this is applicable to all softwares. So you start laying bricks. Here, the bricks you are laying is your HTML codes that you write. The HTML codes are the bricks. And you know, when you lay your bricks the first time, the building will not be fine. It will just look tattered. But because you are following a good design, you believe that by the time you are done with the house, it will look perfect. So you continue to lay your bricks according to the design. So when you are writing HTML code, arrangement is very, very important. It is very, very important how you arrange your HTML codes. So that is when you follow design. If you do not arrange your HTML codes very well, by the time you start applying the styles to it, it will not appear fine. So when you lay your bricks, the next thing you want to do is to align your styles, or what we call CSS. So the CSS is more like you want to paint the house, you want to design the house, you want to decorate the house. All of those decorations in a website or in software is done with CSS. So you can do the whole styling, beautifying, adding colors, adding shapes here and there, sharpening the edges, rounding the edges, whatever you want. You do that with CSS. And when you are done with the CSS, the next thing is to bring in life to it, which is called the JavaScript or functionalities. The functionalities. This is the part where in the house, you wire the house to electricity, you put on your fan, the light bulbs that turn on and off, AC for cooling, gas cooker for cooking, refrigerators, all of those things that are functionalities in the house. So for website, it is done with JavaScript. So you first write your HTML codes, then you apply CSS stylings to it, and then you start building JavaScript to it. Now, this is what it takes to build a website. So, and that is what I want to explain. And when it comes to building a website, the first thing you need to understand is that all your codes must go in the body tag. Notice that there is nothing I have written that is on top of the body or outside the body. Everything is within the body. So in HTML codes, whatever you want to do, anything you want to do, you need a tag. So we call it tags or elements. So you need a tag or element. There are so many HTML tags, and in that, in the what's it called? Sorry, even if you don't go to Google Classroom, you can always go to w3schools.com and find all of the HTML tags. If you want to add title, you need a tag. If you want to add image, you need a tag. If you want to add button, you need a tag. A video, music, anything you want to add to a website, you need a tag like that. Okay. So So if the return keyword will mean the last line to be executed, how then are you going to make the function continue if the condition is met? Now, if the condition is met, that for example, when I mean the condition being met is in the first part of the line, you will write if there is no email, return. So that condition will only be met when the user submits to the backend without an email, so it will return. But if there is an email, the function will continue because the function, that particular condition will not be met. And not to worry, you will do this yourself. You will do a lot of these things yourself. So you'll get to do all of these things yourself. Don't worry about it. Before our next class, we've entered backend proper. So I just need to do this refresher course so everybody will all be on the same page. So like I said, you have H1. These are heading tags, H1 to H6. So if you look here, you have H1, H2 to H6. These are called heading tags. Now, if you want to add a topic, a title, this or those anything that you want to stand out, subheading, you use heading tags for it. But if you want to add description or a paragraph, you use a paragraph tag or what we call a P tag. P tag. It is the only P tag, and it is for paragraph. Lorem 30, hit enter. So I have a paragraph here, and it is inside a P tag. Now, you can look at the documentation. You know what? Let me just get the documentation again. So I will say HTML tags, reference W3 schools. And if I click, which one? HTML tags. Okay, I'll check this first one and also check this second one. So you get to see a lot of tags, not this one. Yes, here you have so many tags that you can use. So many tags that you can use. And I will share this link with you for the new students here. Yes, now you can go through it to see all of the tags that you can use. Now, but one thing you should understand is if you notice some of these tags have closing and opening tags. How do you know which one is closing and which one is the opening tag? Any of the tag that you see this /, that is the closing tag. For example, here you have a body tag. There is no / inside. So it means that this is the opening tag. Here you have a body tag, but there is a / inside. So this means that this is the closing body tag. Now here you have your script. There is no / inside, but here you have a script again, and there is a / inside. So this is the closing and this is the opening. The same thing for HTML. And you see that this comes with a /. This is the closing tag. And my H1, this is the closing tag. And my title, this is the closing tag for the title. And the head, this is also the closing tag for the head. Now, some of them come with opening and closing tags, but some of them don't. For example, if I want to add an image here, IMG for image. Now, image comes with two extra things, this one and this one. Now, this is the SRC, short for the source. You want to add an image. Where is the location of this image? Where is the source of this image? That is what this thing means. So the image can be in your current folder, or it can be on the internet, anywhere on Google. And here, this is alternative, short for This is alt short for alternative. If this image that you are trying to link here does not show up on the browser, automatically the text that you put here will appear. For example, and say this is my image, and you save it. So if I come back to my codes and refresh, now you see here I am trying to add an image, but it's not coming up. But I have a text here that says this is my image. So what these two things do is, here you link your image, but if your image does not show up, automatically the text that you put here to describe the image will show up. That's for an image tag, and these things are called attributes. So attributes are properties or qualities that you can use to describe a certain tag. So this image tag has a source attribute and also has an auth attribute, like that. But you can add an image here. Say you can copy image here, so long as it's on the internet. You can copy image. But if you are building a website, the first thing you need to know is that if you use somebody's property, you can be sued for it. So if you use an image that somebody is using, they can sue you for it. If you use something that is not yours, they can sue it for it. But Google and other websites provide you free images to use. Images you can put on your website and you will not be sued. So here I want to open this image and copy the image link or the image address. Okay, copy image link here, and then I can add it inside my src v and save it. So I have linked the source of my image here, and I've added an alternative text if the image should not load. So I'll save this, come back to my browser and refresh, and here I have my image here looking fine and good. So do we have any questions so far? Sorry about the network. I don't know, is it from my own end? Okay, yes, I would mention that to the new students. Of course, I would definitely mention that. But let's continue with this. So I have added a tag here, H1. I've added a tag here, the paragraph tag. I've also added another tag here, the image. Then I can also add another tag here, say the button. And the button, now the button comes with opening and closing tag, and inside the button I can say submit or read more, whatever you want to type there. Read more and save this. So if I save this and come back to my browser and refresh, I have a button here that says read more and it's clickable. You can click on it. Yeah, so this is how you build a website. Now it takes a lot to build a website. So most websites you can't complete them in one day, some you can't complete them in 1 month, some it takes 3 months, some it can also take 2 years. So when you are building a software, just the most important thing to take note of is the timeline, the duration it will take. These projects take time to build, because after you arrange your HTML very well, the next thing is to start applying CSS styles to it. When you are done applying CSS styles to it, you move on to start applying the JavaScript functionalities to it. Now, while the front end person is building all of this HTML, PHP, the whole HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript, you, the backend, you are also developing the backend, setting up your database, setting up your server, building your API, and waiting to handle requests that will be made from the front end application to your backend application. So the two of you will be working together side by side. So I want to stress it again. The backend is not just for websites. The backend we're building is both for mobile apps, for website, for dashboard, and any software you can think about. That is the backend we are building. But it is easier to show you a website on the browser than it is to show you a mobile app. That is why I'm using a website as the beginning of the class. Okay. Your images, you can add your images anyhow, provided that your image is showing up on the browser. So you can use a link, you can download it, provided that it is showing up on the browser. That's the most important thing. So that is done. We have a tag here. We've added tags. Now, there is a lot to learn in HTML. Of course, if you look at these tags here, this is a comment. Here is a doc type. Here is an anchor tag, abbreviation, acronym, address, area, article, aside. There's so many tags. Some of these tags, you may not use them as a front-end developer. You may not. But some of them too, you will use them. So, and it's not compulsory that you must know all. And also, most importantly, do not cram anything. And that is why you have documentation. Whatever you are doing as a backend developer, make sure that you are not cramming it. No, you are not cramming anything. You have tons of documentation, and a lot of persons are paid good money to write these documentations for you, and they put it out there. So they are writing this documentation. I don't know if you've heard about technical writers and co-writers, all of that. So technical writers are people who are paid money to write these documentations and put it out on the internet. And they are writing it for you, the developer, just in case you forget something. You can easily go to the internet and you find what you are looking for. So you don't need to cram anything at all. Node.js can be used for backend of any software you want. Node.js can be, so it's not just for websites. It can be used for any software you want. Any software you want. Then we're done with HTML. This is the basics of HTML for our new students. This is just the basics of HTML. The next thing you want to do is to add stylings to this HTML. How do we add stylings? The easiest way is to create an external file here, call it index.css. Index.css. So when you create a file here, you want to come to that file. Let me save this one and close it. You want to come to that file and then say, for example, H1. Now I'm calling all the H1. And then inside here, I'll put a curly brace and outline the properties I want. I want to change the color of the H1s to red. So this is how you write it and you save. So if I refresh here and I have H1s here, so you see that their colors are changing to red. Now, after the color, I can increase their font size to be, say, 45 pixels and save. So if I refresh again, their styles are bigger. I can do that. Now, I can leave the image, the H1, and call the img tag. Notice that I am calling the tag by the tag name. So here you have a tag name here, H1. So I'm calling H1. Here you have a tag there called img, and I'm calling img. So what I want to do is I want to reduce the width of the image and say reduce it to 20 pixels and save. If I refresh, you see my image has become very small, and I can say increase it a little to 70 pixels. And if I refresh, the image is now big a little. Now this is what CSS does for you. With CSS, you can arrange your HTML tags, you can add colors, beautify them, do whatever you want to do in your HTML. Now, to go deeper in HTML, in CSS, I would encourage you to please watch that video on the Google Classroom. And any other videos, the videos we've recorded so far, please watch it. You understand more on CSS. Now, one thing you can, if you're observant, you see that we have h1 tag here, and we also have another h1 tag here. So we have two h1 tags, and while we add red color to h1 tag, the two of them are using the same color. What if we want to give the two of them different colors? What if we want to give them different colors? So to do that, you do it by selectors. So you can either choose to go with ID or class. So you can say with a class name, or you can go with an ID name like this. So how do you give a tag a class name or ID? Inside the angle bracket here, this opening tag, inside the angle bracket, inside, not outside, inside the angle bracket, you put space and you write class. So this is class, select class, it comes with equal to quote. So you can call it any name like NK. So I've given it a class name and the name is NK. This is like a personal name. This name is not coming from HTML. This is me naming it NK. You can name it anything like GG, whatever you want. So I can come here and say, GG, I want you to take a color of green and save. So saving it and refreshing, you see that I'm not seeing any green color. The reason is because the browser does not recognize the name GG. Now it doesn't know what the name is, but you know that the name is a class name. And because it's a class name, you need to indicate to the browser that this is a class name by adding dot. So whenever the browser sees dot, it will know that this GG is a class name. Now, if I refresh, you see that this is now green. So this class name is now reflecting. I can decide to use, maybe add another H1 and call it topic and refresh. So if I refresh, I have a topic by default. Because I am giving all the H1 red, anytime I add H1, it will be red. So imagine that all the styles you are writing, everything is colored red, 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 red. The HRO is going to design a red sack letter for you and package it very well. But we don't want that to happen. So that is why I was showing you how to add individual colors to them. So you can add ID to this one. Now notice that I am adding it inside the angle bracket, not outside. Inside the angle bracket, not outside. So here I will then say ID and hit enter. I can call it anything like YY, whatever you YYYY. But it is important to give it a name that people will understand, especially when you are working with other developers. So when they see it, they know that this is a class name for the title like that. So I will copy this ID name and come here, say title, I want you to have a color of blue and save. So if I refresh this, the blue is not reflecting. The reason is because the browser does not understand this name, but you know that this is an ID name. So what you would do is to add a hash here. So by adding hash, the browser knows that this title is an ID name. It will then come to this HTML and look for the tag that has the ID name title. So if they have the ID name title, it will then assign the color of blue to that tag. So if I refresh, I have this turning to blue. So this is how you select and you add properties. You can add more than one property to a particular tag. For example, I can add color. I can add the font size to be 50 pixels. The font size will make it bigger. 50 pixels. 50 is too small. You know what? And it's because it's coming from here. So I will comment this out and refresh. 50 is this. What else can I add? I can add font style and say let the font style be italic. Not font size, rather font style. So save it, and that will italize it. I can add background color to it and say I want the background color, since it's blue, I want to make it green background color, and save. So if I refresh this, you see it has a background color. I can move it from there to the middle or to the end by saying text align. Text align, I can say align it to the center and save it. If I refresh, the text now comes to the center. So using CSS, after you have carefully arranged your HTML, now the arrangement of your HTML is very, very important. If the architects come to where they are building your house and they see that the messing person has not arranged the bricks very well, they will tell you that there is a problem in your house from that point. So if the bricks are not arranged very well, from that point the whole building becomes nonsense. So but if your HTML is arranged very well, by the time you come to apply CSS to it and apply JavaScript to it, it will come out perfectly the way you want it. So again, I will encourage you to please watch that video on Google Classroom or go through our old videos. The reason is this. Number one, you have an assignment there. I've not recorded any assignment for the new students. So make sure to watch the videos and submit the assignment. Number two, our next class, we are properly entering into backend. Proper. In order for me to make sure that by the end of this your program, every one of you can be able to handle a backend project, I need not waste time. If I waste time, I will not be able to complete the scheme of work or maybe complete the whole class. So that is why I'm using this class to round up everything that is the basics. And that is why I'm saying ask your questions now. So for the new students, we can continue. By this week, we are in the third week. Like this is the third week. We'll finish the third weeks. And this program is supposed to end. This is April, May, June. It's supposed to end in June. So meaning we have May. Now, it's not going to end the whole of June. Some part of June will be for your project. So we have the ending of this April and the whole of May to do whatever we want to do. And then in June, we start revision and you start your project. Like so, back to our new students, we can continue. So you have your CSS, you can apply styles to it. The next thing you want to do is you want to move to JavaScript. JavaScript is very, very important because that is where you begin your functionalities. That is where you add a life to the project and all of that. So the first thing you need to understand is how to declare variables. Very, very important. There are different kinds of variables. There are strings, there are numbers, there are booleans, there's null, and there is undefined. Variables are the same thing as we having containers in our houses. Now, some of us have containers for Maggi, we have containers for salt, you have containers for sugar. So these containers contain different contents. You cannot put sugar inside the container for your Omo. It will come out disastrous. The same thing is applicable in JavaScript. In a place where the function is expecting numbers, if you go and write text, it will come out disastrous. In a place where it's asking for booleans, if you go and send numbers, it will come out disastrous. So these are the variables we use when coding. How do we define numbers? So normally you start with const or let. I think I need to explain what const or let means. Why am I not? This is const. The next one is let. So to declare a variable, we use const or we use let. Now you can choose to use the keyword var, but we have passed that one. We don't do that here anymore. So we move on to const and let. How do you define a variable? Now in your house, you can, if you want to store Maggi or salt or sugar, what you do is you get a container. That container, you give it a mark, something to remember it by, and say, okay, anytime I see this container, I know that Maggi is what is inside. So the containers, even though they are looking the same, you find a way to differentiate them. That is how you define variables. So what you do is, once you write const, you know that you want to define a constant variable. A constant variable is a variable that the value will not change. Tomorrow, you will not go and open it and put Maggi or put another thing inside. What you started with is what will continue to be in that container. So if you put Omo there, it is going to contain Omo for the rest of your life. So that is what a constant variable is. When you write const, you are about to declare a constant variable. Now, the next thing is that variable, you want to give it something to identify it by. For example, you want to give it a name. Are we still here? Okay, no questions. The new students, are we still here? So new students, if you're still here, please drop a thumbs up in the question and answer topic before I continue. Yeah, drop thumbs up. Thank you. New students, if you're here, drop a thumbs up, the question and answer topic. Thank you. Okay. Okay, let's proceed. So the next thing we want to talk about is declaring it. So you give it something to recognize it by. So in JavaScript, you give it a name. So after you write const, the next thing you want to write is the name that you will call that variable. You can call it any name like this. Anything. It can be a one-word name, it can be a two-word name, 3 words, 4 words, however you want to name it. But the thing is this, if it is only one word, they will all be small letters. But if it is going to be more than one word, after the first word, every other word will start with a capital letter like this. And that is what we call the camel case or camel case anyhow. So the next thing is assignment operator, which is the equal to, and then the value like this. So what we have done is take this value and store it inside this container that we called anything. So this is our variable. Now we can define another variable, say the value is age, the name is age, and the value is 74. We can define another value, const ggg is equal to false. And also we can go with another value, const hhh is equal to null. So here we have 4 different variables, and all these variables are constant variables. You know that they are constant variables because they start with one const. A constant variable is a variable that the value will not change. It remains the same. So, but here we have quotes. Now, this quote is telling us the value of this variable is a string. It is a string because it has quotes. So it can have double quotes. It can also have single quotes, however you want it. Now, this is a variable for age. The name is age and the value is 74 and 78. This is numbers. The next one is Boolean. We know it's a Boolean because if it is not false, then it is going to be true. So a Boolean is a variable that has or can have only two values. It can be false or it can be true. There is no in between. Then this is a null value. Now, a null value can also. Now, what is the difference between a null value and undefined? A null value is a value or a variable that you define but will not have any value. So when you see null, null means it is empty. There is nothing inside. It doesn't have a value. It is empty. And it is going to continue to be empty for the end of that project or the end of that software. It would never, 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 never have value. That is a null variable. Then here we are defining another variable, but we are using a different keyword, and the keyword is let. So this keyword let and this variable name y, you see, we're not adding assignment operator here, and we're not adding anything here. So it means that this is an undefined variable. What is an undefined variable? A variable that you declare but does not have a value now. It is going to have a value later, but for now, it doesn't have any value. That is what we define as undefined variable. So here you have an undefined variable. So this is the most important thing, variables. You watch the video, make sure you know how to define variables and all the types of variables. The next thing is arrays and objects. Now, we may not be able to go through all of that. We may not, but let me go to one last thing that I want to teach the old students. Let's say we have a function, fetch users is the name of the function, and is an async function. By now, I want to believe you understand what an async function is. So it's an async function, and what it is going to do, go ahead, ask your question, drop your questions. I'm here to take your question. So what this is going to do is fetch variables. So let's say fetch, and we need to pass in a URL to it. So I will go to type code JSON placeholder here and get the URL for this backend. So here I'll get this URL. So come back here. So I will add this here. I've added the URL. The next thing is the endpoint for users. So whatever will be returned here, you know what? I need to use await. Now you can only use await inside an async function. That is the only time you can use await. Now var is still in existence. Var, it is still in existence. People still use var, but it is not advisable to use var when you are building a big project or a large project, because the var keyword is not scoped. So how else do I want to explain the var keyword? Now I'm going to explain, I'm going to explain the var keyword later. If you want to write undefined variable, you can also write const yy without assigning value. No, you cannot use the const keyword for an undefined variable. So if you use const, the reason why we are using let is because you use let only when you know that the value will change later. That is when you use let. But for const, you are assigning a value now, and that value will never change. So that is different between const and let. Now here, if you use const, you must assign a value now, and that value will never change. But that is not what an undefined variable is. An undefined variable is a variable that does not have a value now, but in the future, it is going to have a variable. So you are supposed to use let for an undefined variable. Now, the old students are those that started this project from the beginning of April. Those that started with us, I think that was, I don't know, is it 3rd of April or so? Those that started with us and those that have joined this class 3 weeks, this week is making them their 3rd week. The new students are those ones that their first class started yesterday. So if yesterday was your first class, then you are a new student. Today is your second class, then you're a new student. But those of us that have submitted the first assignment, the second assignment, and waiting for the 3rd assignment this week, then you're an old student. That's how you know who is a new student and who is an old student. So we'll proceed here. We are trying to fetch users here. So whatever we fetch here, we want to store it in a variable called users. So whatever we fetch from this thing, we store it here called users, and we are fetching users. So when we get users, you know what? I don't want to call it users. Yes, I want to call it response. The response I get, and then this is the one I want to call users, is equal to response.json, like this. So I have this, I'm fetching users, I store it inside response, and then I pick up that response again, and I call .json on it to convert it from JSON to object, and I store the object inside users. Then I will console log users, console log users here. I need to await for this because it might take a while to complete. It might not, it might take a while, any which one. So the next thing is this function is not going to run because, like I said, a function is a robot. And a robot will only work when you call the name of that robot. And if you call the name of that robot, it will come and do anything that you have designed it to do. This function is designed to fetch all users, convert the users adjacent to object, and then console log the object. So that is what this function is doing. Whenever you call this function, it will come and do exactly what you have designed it to do. So this is how you call a function. You type the name and you invoke it with a bracket like that. So I'll come to console log, inspect, and then hit console log. And I'm not getting users. Why is that? Okay, I need to refresh. Sorry. Refresh, and I have an error. User is not defined. So I am missing a word. So this is users, and I'm calling users. So it has to match users and users. So if I refresh, I have 10 users. Okay, the font size, sorry, I think this should be better now. And this one is also better. So what we are doing is we are fetching all users. We are storing it in response. We are taking that response, calling .json on it to convert it from JSON to object. We are waiting for it to do that for all of the users, and then store it inside the user variable and console log all the users. And so by doing that, we are having an array of 10 objects. Now, for the new student, it is very, very important that you understand what an array is and what an object is, and also what arrays of objects is. Now, if you look at this project, This project here is designed by the backend developer. It is the job of the backend developer to choose how to arrange this data. So if you don't understand what array is and what an object is, how will you arrange the data for the front-end developer? So it's important you understand what an array is, what an object is, and how to arrange data. Whether you want to put an object inside an array, or you want to put an array inside an object, or you want to put an array inside an array, or an object inside an object, any which one you want. Now, if I close this, I'll close address and close this. So you see here, I have an object. This is number one. Actually, computer start counting at 0. So this is the first person with the ID number 1. This is their name. This is their username. If I open it up, you'll see that their name, username, and all of this. Inside their name, you have address, which is also an object. So this developer is actually having an array and then an object and then another object inside the array. Now, for the new student, you may not understand this, which is why it is important you watch the videos, especially our last video. Our last video, I talked about that. Make sure you understand it. If you still do not understand it, drop a comment by the end of the class, or maybe after watching the video, drop a comment for me, the new student, and I will explain that. So we are fetching 10 users and we're displaying it here. So what we want to do is, we don't want to display them here. We want to take this thing and then display them here. So I will not do it for users. I'll do it for, let me see, which one would I do it for? Not the guide. I'm actually going to the guide, not the guide. I have where are they? So I have comment, albums, to-dos, users. You know what? Let me do it for, sorry, let me just get all of them. I want to do for one, and then I'll give you the rest as an assignment. So let me do it with users. Let's just do it with users. I have users here. What I want to do is take each of these user objects and display it here as a card for each user here. I want to display it as a card for each user here. Are you a new student? If you don't understand, now if you don't watch me while I'm doing it, are you sure you would understand when you are watching the video? Okay, but any which one, now the most important thing is you understand how to do it. So if you're going to watch video and understand it, it's fine. If you want to follow along, it's fine. And also, if you want me to record the video and then when I come, I'll play the video so that you will not have network issues, or I will not have network issues, also let me know so I can do that. So here, I fetch the users. I'm console logging the users. What I want to then do is for each of that users. So I'll call users. For each of the users, I'm calling for each now. Now for each is a higher array method. Our new students, you may not understand, but we've done this. I think, did we do this in the last class? I think so. I can't remember. So I'm calling for each. Now for each is an higher array method. This is an array. You know it's an array because it has square bracket here and square bracket here. All of these curly braces are objects that are inside the square bracket. So for each, we are trying to do something for each of these objects. Hence the name for each. For each simply means we are trying to do something for each of these objects. What are we trying to do? We are trying to display the details of each user in a card here. So for each user, we want to display their names in a card. We want to display their names in a card. So that is what for each is about. So I have for each, passing an arrow function here. And then I take each user, I want to call them, let me call them each. For each one, take each one and then return. Now what? Let's not do return first. I'll come here. I want to add them under this image. So I will come here and say dot container. I'm trying to create a div. So let me create a div where I will add each of those cards, container here, and then I'll give it a class name or maybe an ID name and say container. Save. So I have this. I'll come back here and say let's select the container. I'll say const the div is equal to document dot get elements by ID, and we pass in the ID container. Now this container is the ID that we gave to the div in HTML, and we are creating a variable and store it inside the variable. The reason why we are storing it inside the variable is so that we can use that variable to work with this div. So I will come here and say the div dot inner HTML. I want to add an HTML inside it, which is going to be the card plus equals, and then backticks. Open it up. So I want to create a div with card, the class name card. So I will create a div here, close it here. So I have a div. Now inside this div, I want to be able to display their name, username, phone number, name, and so on and so forth. So I will use different heading tags. The first one I want to use is H1 for their name. H1, and I will say this should be dollar, curly braces, and then it will be each dot name for their name. The next thing I want to do is display their, what else do I want to display? Maybe username. No. I'll use H3 for their username. So inside here, I'll put dollar, curly braces, each dot username. Did I spell the username well? No, I did not. So it's username. Okay. The next one is I want to display their phone number. So I can use H4. No. H4. And then dollar, where's dollar? Curly braces, each dot phone is actually phone. Notice that I am making sure that the name I write here are the names that will be returned from the backend. So as a backend developer, you'll be the one to decide what you name each variable. So the front-end developer must use exactly the same names that you name the objects. Sometimes you can use, now if it was me, I will put capital N here for username, but it's not me. I have to do what the backend developer did by putting small n. So let me see that I'm actually getting this. So yeah, it is displaying here, but it's not displaying properly. Let's see if we can add more items. I want to display, so let's see if I want to display their location. You see that the location is different, so that's more like, let me see, H5. So this is dollar, each dot address, inside address dot city. So this is an object inside an object. So we go to address. Inside the address, we have the city, the street, and so on and so forth. So I can add H6 here now. No, H6. Close this, H6 here, and then dollar here. So I go with each dot address dot street. Yes, and save that. So for each of those users, I am creating a div that will have H1, H3 for each of them. That's why I have this for each here. So for each one, I am creating a div and I'm adding that div as if inner HTML inside the div. That's what I'm doing. I'm creating a div for each one, adding it as inner HTML into the div. And the div here is this div that we got from the HTML. So if I come back here and refresh, so I have all my users, but that's not enough. I want to add CSS styles to be able to differentiate them. So what I can do is here, I will add a class name or maybe ID name, anyone. Add a class name here to call it card and save. So if I call card, come to my CSS here and call dot card. The dot, because it's a class name, dot card. I'll close, where is that? I'll close this one. So I have this. I want to add, let's say, border. Give it a border for each one, 2 pixels, solid green, and save. So if I refresh, I have borders for each one. This border is not fine. Let me find a CSS background. CSS, what's it called? It's called CSS Canabi, CSS background. CSS backgrounds, and it's gotten from where? There's a place I normally see CSS backgrounds that will have drop shadows, the styles already there. I've forgotten what the name is. I think it's Scan CSS. Let me see. I think it's Scan CSS. Yeah, this get Scan CSS. So I have different cards here. I can pick any one I want. I'll take 23, this one. So instead of this border, I will just drop this here and save it. Now you don't have to cram this. If you want to do it, I'll drop the link for you, because of course you will do it. I'm doing one so that you will do another one on your own. So let me drop the link for you. V and hit enter. So I'll do one, you do one. So I'll come back here. If I save and refresh, I have them coming up as cards, but if you look at it, they are touching the edges, which is what I don't want. So I can add padding to give spaces. Padding is spaces on the inside. So I can do what do I want to do? I want to do top and bottom 10 pixels, left and right 15 pixels. Save it and refresh. Okay, it's not, the left and right is not fine, so I'll just increase it to 25 and save. Yeah, now it is better. Most times these things comes with images, the user's image, but here there's no image, no problem. Next thing I want to do is now, as a developer, you already have design to work with. So me now, I'm not working with any design. So I'm just building it the way I save. What I can do is, in addition to these their names, I can add a button here. I can add a button, and in the button I will say view more, just maybe view the user's details more, and I'll say this one is not coming from the backend, so I will just type the text here myself, view more, and save. So if I refresh this, yeah, so you have a button for each one, and you can click to view more, and you can style the button very well by adding a class name to it and call it maybe btn and save. So if I copy btn, come to css dot btn here, and what do I want to do? First, I want to remove the background by giving it a transparent background and save it. Now the background will be transparent. Then the next, I want to remove the border. The border is looking ugly, and the border none, and save. The border is gone. So I want to add my own border by saying border 1 pixels. You know what? No, let me use color. I'll say let the color be background color, not border this time. Background color, I want green, and save it. The green is fine. I want the text to change to white, and save it. So if I refresh, I have the color. The button is too small. I can increase it with padding. Padding is spaces on the inside. So I can say 5 pixels top and bottom. No, 5 is, yeah, let's go with 7 pixels top and bottom, 15 pixels left and right. Save it and refresh. And the button is okay. I want to give it border radius to be a little rounded, like 5 pixels, not too much. Okay, so the button is fine. And the final one, which is the one that will break the camel's back, I don't think I explained that, but here I can display them side by side. Currently I have them. Do you have any question? Any questions so far? Yes, you can use something like username. Now, when you are building the backend, like I said, you are in control. Whatever you do, that is what the front end developer will follow. So if you choose to go with this, is your choice. Just make sure that you tell the front end developer, this is what I am doing, this is what you expect. The same way they did for us here. So they told us, this is what you do, this is what you will get. This is what you do, this is what you get. So you tell the user, the front-end developer, exactly what to do and what they will get. You are in charge. And the next one is, will you drop this? Yeah, I'll drop the source code for this. I will. And what's my time? I think we are out of time. So, but so that we don't waste time, but so that let me do the last one. I want to display them side by side, then we end the class. The one way is to use CSS Flex. Another way is to use CSS Grid. So what I can do is, in their parent, which is container, I can use, now I didn't cover this part, but of course you can look into it. Grid, I can say display grid. Display grid. Grid is going to display them side by side. Then grid template columns. Grid template columns. And you know what? Let me do something smaller, 100 pixels. 100 pixels. Let me see if this is going to be smaller. 100 pixels, 100 pixels, 100 pixels. Okay, I didn't get that. So let me try repeat. Repeat 3, 1 FR and see. Let's see. Okay, I still didn't get that. Okay, I'm trying to use grid. Why am I not getting it aligned? Sorry, it may be working, it may not. Actually, it's not. So I want to display them side by side, and I'm looking for the easiest way because you too, you will do it. So what did we skip H2? I thought you will use H1. Okay, now I didn't skip H2 on purpose. It's your choice. Whatever heading tag you want to use is your choice. I didn't skip H2 on purpose. No, I didn't. And you can add any tag you want. The most important thing is how it displays on the front end. Yes, you have to create the container. I think I have a container here already. And in my CSS, I had, wait. It's an ID name. Sorry. I was using class. It's an ID name. Yeah, it's displaying side by side. So it was an ID name. And I want to add spaces here, like margin. But that will be for grid. It will be grid gap. Or maybe any other one. There's grid gap. There's other ones you can use. But grid gap is deprecated. Let me still use it. 10 is fine by me. So I have them displayed like this. So now, assuming these responses are coming with images, we should be able to add the user's images here. But without doing too much, you see the majority of what you see on the front end depend on the back end. Now, just we've done very small, but small, you see that we're almost filling up the website. So this is what it means to make a request to a backend. So far, do we have any questions? Now, you can auto-save if you want, but the reason why you don't auto-save is most times you are not done writing the functionalities. If the system or the VS Code saves for you automatically, it will cause a crash. And God help you that you're not writing a loop. If you are writing a loop like a while loop, it will run into an infinite loop that will cause your system to crash or to hang. So now autosave works better if you are doing HTML and CSS, but not when you are doing JavaScript. For JavaScript, you want to save when you are done writing the code. So that's it. Now, do we have any question on what we have done so far? Now, for this is the most important thing I think I've done today. And my assessment for the week for the old student is this. And the new students are also going to do it. And the earlier you start doing your assignment and submitting, the better for you. So this is what I did today. I fetched users. Now, but for you, your assignment is this. Come to this typing code. Look at these endpoints. Pick any three apart from the users. I have done the users. Don't pick the users. Pick any three here. Fetch it and display it on the front end. That's all. That is your assignment for the week. I think I'm going to add it on Google Classroom, and it's actually the deadline is next week Friday, or this week Friday actually. So that is your assignment. Do you have any question so far? Now, for the new students, sorry that I'm taking too much of your time. There's a way we submit assignments. Should I go ahead and explain that? Because our time is up. I'll explain that in our next class. So how we submit assignment with GitHub. So that's all. So any questions before we call it an end? Yes, I will send you the recording of today's video. Yes, I'm still recording. I will. So any question before we call it a day today? Any question before we call it a day today? Any question? Any questions? Questions on what we have done so far? Now, our next class, this is what I want everybody to do. Our next class, this is what I want everybody to do. First things first, install Node. So go to nodejs.org and install Node. Wait, what's this one? Node. Are you serious? Yeah, download Node. They've actually upgraded the website, so that's why it looked confusing to me. So you click here and you download Node. That's the first thing. The second thing is to download Postman. You click, you download Postman. Now, if you don't want to use Postman, you can use Insomnia. Yes. So go ahead, download Insomnia, not Insomnia for sickness, Insomnia to test APIs. Yes, Insomnia, this one. So either of this, oh, Insomnia is down. So leave that one. Download Postman. Get Node, get Postman. What else do we need? What else do we need? Now, for the new student, create a GitHub account. Go to github.com and create a GitHub account. It's very, very important. I will explain in the next class. So do we have any question? If there is no question, drop a thumbs up. I'm not sure. Now, there's a mobile app that you can use to code. It's called, I've forgotten the name of the mobile app. You can use that mobile app to code. Now, it's also possible to code. If you can do that, it's fine. But for the sake of what you are learning, I will encourage you to get a system, a PC. It's different when you are coding with a laptop and when you are coding with a phone. So, but you can do small things with your phone, but it's important to get a laptop. A lot depend on you as a backend developer, a lot, and you don't want to do that with phone. So, any questions? If you don't have question, drop a thumbs up so that we can end the class. Yeah, Trebit mobile. Yes, I will post the assignment on Google Classroom. Let me also, now the thing is this, all of these repositories that I'm creating and I'm sharing with you, I will start deleting the old ones. Where are they? They're not here. So I'll start deleting the old ones, but let me create this one. This is called, I'll call it fetch. Fetch, create. Then here, here, you know what? Upload an existing file, drag it, and drop. So no questions, drop a thumbs up. To schedule a class for you will be difficult. The reason is, it's not because I can't schedule the class. The reason is because most persons are working class with them, so they work during the week, and your classes is supposed to be on weekends. So I don't know when else to schedule a class for you. Okay, create one repo, multiple, exactly. Now, the reason why I create new repos every day is for the sake of those who don't know how to do it yet, so that you see me do it and you follow doing it. After now, I will not be creating new repos. It's just going to be one repo and we go with it. The var keyword is still in existence. It is still being used, but to cut long story short, it's not advisable to use it when building a big project. That's all. So in the absence of any question, drop a thumbs up so that we can end the class. Drop a thumbs up, the question and answer, so that we can end the class. Thank you and see you next week. Oh no, yeah, this week Friday, or this week Saturday rather. All right. See you. Is anybody typing? No. That's it. All right. Bye.